The conference room door swung shut with a soft click, but it might as well have been a gunshot. "You're out, Emily," Jason spat, his voice slicing through the morning haze like a poorly sharpened knife. He leaned back in the leather chair at the head of the table, arms crossed over his crisp button-down, a smug grin plastered on his face that screamed Ivy League entitlement. It was 8:05 a.m. in the heart of Silicon Valley, and the fog outside the floor-to-ceiling windows mirrored the fog in my brain from that first bitter sip of office coffee. 28 years. That's how long I'd poured my soul into this company, turning a dingy garage startup into a tech behemoth worth billions. And now, this kid, barely 30, the CEO's nephew with a fresh MBA from Stanford and a TikTok feed full of motivational quotes, was erasing me like a bad line of code. No one met my eyes. The junior devs fidgeted with their laptops, pretending to debug invisible errors. Sarah from marketing scrolled through her phone, her thumb moving faster than usual. Even Tom, the CFO, who'd been with me since the early days, stared at his notepad like it held the secrets to the universe. Jason didn't flinch. "We've outgrown your traditional methods," he said, air quoting traditional like it was a disease. "Time for fresh blood. Velocity over legacy." I could smell his cologne from across the room. Something expensive and overpowering, like his ambition. 6 months ago, he couldn't tell a pivot table from a ping-pong table. Now, he was calling shots, and I was the first casualty. I didn't scream, didn't beg. My heart pounded, a steady drumbeat of something colder than anger, resolve. "Understood," I replied, my voice even, almost polite. It threw him off. I saw the flicker in his eyes, the brief uncertainty. As I stood, gathering my notepad and the half-empty mug, the room exhaled collectively. Security, 2 guys in ill-fitting uniforms, waited outside, one holding a cardboard box like it was a condolence prize. "Emily." Karen from HR started, her pity smile cracking at the edges. I waved her off. No need for theatrics. I packed the box myself, a framed photo of me and Alex, the founder, from '96, covered in sawdust from our first server rack. A worn notebook filled with sketches of algorithms that built our empire. And tucked in the back, an old leather binder, its spine cracked from years of neglect. No one noticed it. Why would they? It was just old stuff. The elevator ride down felt eternal. My access badge beeped denial at the lobby turnstile, already deactivated. Efficient, Jason. As I stepped into the crisp Bay Area air, the sun glinting off the glass facade of our headquarters, something inside me shifted. Not grief, not rage. It was the hum of a long-dormant engine revving to life. Jason thought this was his coronation. He didn't know about the safeguard Alex and I had buried in the founding charter back when investors were sharks and every deal felt like a gamble. The reversion protocol. Simple, elegant, lethal. If any original charter signee was terminated without just cause and without 60 days' notice, they could invoke it. Every executive action from the prior quarter? Nullified. Acquisitions, hires, restructures, poof. Gone. I didn't head home to my quiet condo in Palo Alto. Instead, I drove straight to my lawyer's office in Menlo Park, the binder riding shotgun. By 8:45, my final paycheck had hit my account, cashed it on my phone app before Jason even finished his victory lap. The wheels were turning. Jason wasn't just a nepotism hire with bad taste in ties. He was the spark. And I was the fuse. Back in the office, Jason was already peacocking. He strode through the open-plan floor, high-fiving the new hires he'd poached from competitors, kids fresh out of college with energy drinks and optimism. "Big changes coming," he announced to a cluster of engineers. "We're scaling up. No more deadweight. Whispers followed him like shadows. Did you hear? Emily's gone.
Yeah.
But she built this place. He ignored it. Diving into his first post-firing meeting, the board prepped for the massive acquisition he'd championed. A $550 million deal with a logistics AI firm run by his frat brother's uncle. Shady financials. Sure. But Jason called it synergistic disruption. The board ate it up, mostly venture capitalists who'd joined after our Series E. More interested in exits than ethics. As he rehearsed his pitch in front of the mirror in his corner office, formerly mine, he felt invincible. The CEO, his uncle Robert, had handed him the reins with a pat on the back. Modernize it, son. Jason planned to do just that. Gut the old guard. Promote his cronies. Pivot to blockchain, whatever the hell. He didn't know that under the glossy surface of our unicorn status, the foundations were rigged with tripwires. Alex had insisted on it during those sleepless nights in the garage. If they ever forget where we came from, he'd said, his voice gravelly from cheap coffee, we make sure they remember. By noon, my lawyer, a sharp-eyed veteran named Carla, had the documents ready. This is airtight. Emily, she said, sliding the envelope across her desk. They'll feel it like a earthquake. I signed, my hand steady. No second thoughts. This wasn't about me anymore. It was about preserving what Alex and I had created, a company that valued innovation over ego, people over profits. As the courier left with a sealed notice, I leaned back, watching the traffic crawl on Sandhill Road. The hum grew louder. Jason's new era? It was about to be ancient history. The boardroom hummed with the low buzz of anticipation. Jason stood at the projector, clicking through slides littered with buzzwords: agile transformation, hypergrowth metrics, ecosystem dominance. The merger was the star, charts showing projected synergies that looked impressive if you didn't dig into the numbers. Robert nodded approvingly from his seat, his silver hair catching the light. The other board members, a mix of VCs and industry vets, sipped their lattes, murmuring agreements. This positions us for the next decade, Jason declared, his voice booming with false confidence. Then, at 10:17 a.m., the door clicked open. Not dramatically, just efficiently. The courier, in a nondescript jacket, handed a manila envelope to the general counsel. Harlan. And vanished. Harlan, a bespectacled man in his 50s who'd survived 3 CEOs, slid it open with a pen. His face drained of color as he read. The room didn't notice at first. Jason was mid-sentence about leveraging AI paradigms, but Harlan's throat-clearing cut through like static. Robert, Harlan said, his voice measured but edged with urgency. We have a problem. He passed the document over. Robert scanned it, his eyebrows knitting. What the hell is this? Reversion protocol? Jason laughed it off. Some old clause? Come on. We're past that garage stuff. But Harlan didn't laugh. You terminated Emily without notice. She's original charter. This triggers a full rollback of the last 90 days' decisions. The air thickened. Questions flew. Rollback what? Is this enforceable? Harlan nodded grimly. Everything. The merger. Your promotions. Jason. The reorg. Jason's grin faltered, cracking like cheap plastic. That's impossible. Legal would have flagged it. Harlan met his eyes. You didn't ask. And Emily. She helped write it. Panic simmered. Slow at first, then boiling. Phones lit up with urgent texts to outside counsel. The merger docs. Fresh from signing. Now worthless paper. Jason paced, his perfect hair disheveled. We can fight this. But deep down, he felt the ground shift. Emily wasn't gone. She was everywhere in the bylaws, in the history, In the trap he'd sprung himself. The weight of the binder in my lap felt like an old friend as I sat in Carla's waiting room, flipping through memories instead of pages. It wasn't just leather and paper, it was a time capsule from 1996, when Alex and I huddled in that drafty garage in Mountain View, dreaming bigger than our ramen budget allowed. Back then, the internet was a wild frontier, and we were cowboys coding our way to fortune. Alex, with his wild beard and endless energy, pounded away at a clunky PC while I sketched business models on napkins. "We need protections, he'd said one night, rain pattering on the tin roof. Investors will come. They'll try to change us." That's how the reversion protocol was born, not out of paranoia, but foresight. We drafted it over pizza boxes and Red Bull, embedding it deep in the charter. "If they boot one of us without warning," Alex had insisted, his eyes fierce, "we hit reset. Keep the soul intact." I remembered signing it, our hands shaking from caffeine, not fear. 2 other co-founders added their names, but they cashed out years ago. Alex passed 5 years back, heart attack, too young, left me as the last guardian. Robert, his brother, took over as CEO, but he never dug into the old docs. Why would he? The company soared, IPO'd, became a household name in enterprise software. Jason's arrival changed everything. Robert's nephew parachuted in after a stint at a failing startup. "Family," Robert had said with a shrug. But Jason was a virus, slick presentations masking incompetence. He pushed reckless expansions, alienated veterans, favored flash over function. Firing me? That was his masterpiece. A public execution to assert dominance. He didn't know the protocol required board ratification for such moves, buried in subsection F, or that invoking it granted me temporary veto power. As the courier delivered the notice, I imagined the boardroom chaos. Harlan reading aloud. "Pursuant to Clause 14b, termination of charter signee Emily Harper without due process activates full reversion." The mergers he'd inked, the hires he'd made, including his own bump to COO, all vapor. I didn't smile. This was surgery, not slaughter. In the boardroom, the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Jason slammed his fist on the table, rattling water glasses. "This is bullshit. She's bluffing." Robert rubbed his temples, looking older than his 62 years. "Harlan, options." The counsel spread his hands. "Fight in court? It'll leak. Shareholders panic. Or negotiate with her." Jason snorted. "Negotiate? With the dinosaur? I just can't." But the VCs shifted uncomfortably. One, a sharp woman from Sequoia, spoke up. "This clause predates us. It's ironclad. We ignored the foundations." Whispers turned to arguments. "The AI acquisition, $550 million down the drain? My promotion's void?" Jason's voice cracked. Harlan pulled up the charter on his tablet, projecting it. There it was, in black and white. Signatures faded but binding. "She has 30 days veto window," he explained. "Unless waived." Jason's face twisted. "Then make her waive it." But Robert stared out the window, realization dawning. "You think Emily's the type to fold? She built this with Alex. You just declared war on our history." The meeting devolved. Assistants fetched more coffee. Lawyers conferenced in. Jason texted his contacts, frantic. But the protocol had teeth, an NDA rider gagging public discussion. Breach it? Personal liability in the millions. No LinkedIn rants. No press spins. Silence was their cage. I left Carla's office around noon, driving to a quiet cafe in Los Altos, sipping an Americano. I watched my phone for updates. None came. As expected. The hum inside me grew, a mix of vindication and sorrow. Alex would have laughed, his booming chuckle echoing. Told you.
Eminência.
Protect the dream. I missed him. The way he'd rally us through crashes and crunches.
Jason?
He was a symptom of what we'd feared, corporate amnesia. By afternoon, the office buzzed with rumors. Emily's out, but something's up. Boards in lockdown. Jason emerged, face flushed, barking orders. Get me the old files. But the archives were digital now.
Passwords changed.
He didn't have access. Irony at its finest. In his office, he stared at the photo wall, milestones without his face. Doubt crept in. Was this his undoing? Harlan called an emergency huddle. We need to assess damage. The list was brutal. 3 key hires reversed. A product launch delayed. The merger? Partners already spooked by radio silence. Robert turned to Jason. This is on you. Jason bristled.
I was modernizing.
But the room's eyes accused. One board member muttered, modernizing us into oblivion. As evening fell, I walked my neighborhood, the binder under my arm like a shield. The protocol wasn't just legal, it was emotional armor. Jason thought power was volume. I knew it was patience. The explosion was coming, not loud,
but devastating.
The next day dawned gray, matching the mood in the tower. Jason arrived early. Ty Askew, nursing a hangover from stress whiskey. Emails flooded. Acquisition on hold. Org chart updates reverted. HR scrambled. Reinstating legacy staff Jason had sidelined. His cronies whispered defection. In the boardroom, round 2. Harlan laid out scenarios. Court challenge, 6 months. Millions in fees. Settle with Emily. She waves. We move on. Jason exploded. Settle? Apologize to that relic. Robert silenced him. She's not a relic. She's the architect.
A pause. Heavy. Then,
the second envelope arrived, my formal assertion. I invoke veto rights, it read. All actions frozen. Proxy's seat assigned.
Gasps.
The seat? To Alex's sister. Laura, quiet investor. Original believer. She'd stayed out of spotlight, but knew the company's heart. Jason paled. This is a coup. Harlan corrected. It's the charter. Laura's email followed. I'll attend virtually. Let's discuss restoration. The damming built. Jason's world cracked, promotions undone. Deals dissolved. He cornered Robert in the hall. Uncle, fix this. Robert's eyes were steel. You broke it. Jason. Family or not. I met Laura for lunch that day. At a vineyard in Napa. You ready? I asked. She nodded. Her face lined with quiet strength. For Alex. We toasted with water, clarity over cloudiness. The protocol was our legacy weapon. Fired true. Tension coiled in the boardroom like smoke from a hidden fire. Jason paced the length of the table, his loafers scuffing the polished wood, while the others sat in stunned silence. Laura's face filled the video screen, her expression serene yet unyielding, a far cry from the chaos Jason had unleashed. Let's begin, she said, her voice cutting through the static. It was day 2 of the reversion, and the aftershocks were rippling. The AI merger partners had pulled out overnight, citing internal uncertainties. Stock dipped 3% pre-market, nothing catastrophic yet. But the whispers on Wall Street were growing. Jason couldn't sit still. This is insane. A ghost from the past dictating our future. He jabbed a finger at the screen. You weren't even operational. Laura didn't flinch. I funded the garage. Jason. Before you were interning at Daddy's firm. Snickers from a couple VCs, rare, but telling. Robert cleared his throat. Laura. What are your terms? She leaned forward.
Simple.
Restore balance. Vet the merger properly.
Reinstate key veterans.
And
A pause.
deliberate. Address leadership fitness. The room erupted in murmurs. Jason's face reddened. You mean me? Laura's eyes met his through the pixels. Actions have consequences. Harlan interjected, stacking papers. Under the protocol, she, through Emily, holds veto. We comply or litigate. Jason slammed his palm down. Litigate then. Drag her through court. But the Sequoia rep shook her head. Bad optics. Shareholders sue us for negligence. Flashback to the night before. Jason alone in his loft. Scrolling old company bios. Emily's profile, erased now, detailed her role, co-architect of core algorithms. Navigator through .com bust. He dismissed her as outdated.
Now.
Her shadow loomed. He texted Robert. We can buy her out. Reply, she doesn't want money. She wants integrity. Back in the room. Laura outlined demands. Audit the last quarter's decisions. Reverse nepotistic hires. Jason's COO title? Suspended. He felt the noose tighten, not literal, but career-ending. This is personal, he accused. Laura smiled faintly.
No.
Jason. It's procedural. I watched from afar. In a park bench overlooking the bay. The binder opened to Clause 14b. Wind rustled the pages. A whisper of vindication. I'd assign the proxy to Laura, not for drama.
But trust.
She understood Alex's vision. Innovation with humanity. Jason's era? Greed masked as growth.
The meeting dragged.
By lunch, half the board sided with compliance. Cut losses, one said. Jason stormed out, dialing lawyers. But his usual contacts hedged. Tough claws. Man. Isolation set in. Afternoon brought more blows. HR announced reversals. 3 VPs Jason demoted? Back in play. His culture czar buddy? Position eliminated. Emails pinged. Welcome back memos. The office floor buzzed, relief mixed with schadenfreude. Karma, a dev muttered. Jason confronted Robert in his office. Uncle. Back me. Robert sighed, looking at a photo of Alex. You fired the wrong person.
Kid.
Emily's the spine. Jason deflated. For the first time, doubt bloomed. Was he the villain? I dined alone that evening. Steak medium rare. Toasting silently. The hum was a roar now, justice in motion. Day 3. The board reconvened. Jason sidelined to a corner seat. Laura led virtually. Motion to nullify the merger. Votes, unanimous. Save Jason's abstention. He watched $550 million evaporate. Next, review executive conduct. Harlan read a report. Jason's shortcuts. Ignored warnings. Reckless, it concluded. Jason stood. Voice breaking. I was pushing us forward. Laura's response. Forward off a cliff. The vote came. Removed Jason from leadership. Robert abstained. Family ties. But the majority carried. Jason's world shattered. Quiet tears in his eyes.
Outside.
I walked the Embarcadero, feeling the weight lift. Not glee, but closure. The protocol worked, a safeguard against hubris. The fallout spread like ink in water. Slow but irreversible. Jason didn't go quietly at first. He lingered in the hallways, glaring at reinstated staff, muttering about unfair clauses. But by week 2, his badge deactivated, just like mine had. He packed his office under security watch, stuffing energy bar wrappers and branded swag into a box. No pity from HR this time. Policy, they said flatly. Laura steered the ship from her proxy perch, her decisions measured, vetting new hires through committees. prioritizing ethical AI over flashy acquisitions. The stock rebounded. Analysts praising, return to fundamentals. Robert took sabbatical, code for phased exit. Whispers. He knew about the clause but let Jason learn the hard way. I consulted remotely for a rival firm in Austin, fresh air. New challenges. No grudges. The protocol reset the board. Not my life. But one day, Jason appeared at my door. Unannounced. Disheveled. Eyes red. You destroyed me, he accused. Voice trembling. I let him in. Offered coffee. Silence stretched.
No.
Jason, I said finally. You ignored the foundations. Thought youth trumped wisdom. He slumped. I didn't know. That's the point, I replied. Learn it now. He left quieter. Perhaps wiser. The company thrived, echoing Alex's dream. I visited his grave once, binder in hand. We protected it, I whispered. Months later, the tower stood tall.
But changed.
New leadership, merit-based. Legacy honored in plaques. Not just words. Jason? He started a small consultancy. Humbled. The clause remained. A silent sentinel. I reflected on a hike in the hills. Was it revenge or restoration? The line blurs. But in corporate America's churn, remembering roots matters. What safeguards do we build against our own ambitions? The question lingers. A quiet warning.